Hi, welcome. This is Reg Athwal. Welcome to our channel. Welcome to another episode for our show series, Next Gen Entrepreneurs, where I get a chance to interview today a serial entrepreneur, someone who's got an awesome brand. We're going to learn lots from him and the journey that he's been on as an entrepreneur. And that is Spencer Lodge. So let me give you a formal introduction for him. He's an internationally recognized serial entrepreneur, author, and business expert. Spencer has almost 3 decades now of experience building startups across the world to 9-figure organizations. He's the founder of the Blue Sky Thinking Group and the parent company of 3 award-winning brands. And we'll talk a bit more about that in the show and how he's gone into many diversified areas with his entrepreneurial career. A working class kid, I've been told, who became something from absolutely nothing, a bit of a rag to riches story. Spencer's driven to share his expertise now through a lot of leadership training, keynote speaking, virtual things now over the last few months, all off the back of his best-selling book, Make It Happen. It's the ultimate guide to selling, and that's at the core of what he does. He's also got a fantastic podcast show. You must watch it. I'll make sure the links are in the description below, with over 350 videos from what I could see over the last 4 or 5 years. And he has interviewed some real celebrities and business icons around the world. So on that note, Spencer, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Quite an introduction there. I'm the one usually doing that side of it, so it's a bit weird when someone does it for me.
Well, that's the whole idea. I mean, you've interviewed some really great business people, some I've interviewed as well, but I loved your interview with the mini series with Tony Robbins. I thought that was great. And people like Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. And, you met some really cool people, especially people in the UAE who are entrepreneurs. But it was more, I wanted to do this more for you, because people see you interviewing great people, but they don't get an insight into Spencer and your journey. And I'd love to know, where did it start from for you with this rags to riches story?
I consider myself working class, and not because that's in any way derogatory, but I think when you compare it to some of the experiences I had when I was younger, I probably wasn't working class. I lived in Nigeria as a kid, and working class people are really working class people there. But I'm just a kid that was really crap at school, and had parents that got divorced when I was 7 years old. So
did that have a huge impact on you?
I don't think you know that at the time. I think I look back on it now, and I've done a lot of work on my mental health around that. And that seems to be a subject that seems to come up whenever I discuss with any professionals about that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. My sister's got Asperger's, so I was kind of almost like an only child growing up. And I just didn't have a great time at school. And I was actually only talking about this the other day, the impact that the bullies from back then, Justin Zimmerman and Paul Fowler, there you go, I know their names, had on my life until probably my mid-40s, and the hold they had over me, but in a good way, because I wanted to prove them wrong. And that was like a driving force for me throughout my career. Yeah. And God only knows, these guys probably have got no memory of me whatsoever, and no idea that they've sat in my mind all these years. But it
could have gone one or two ways, couldn't it, Spencer? Because some people who've been through that in their childhood, and I know my eldest son went through this at school, there's a turning point, isn't there, where you either go down the rebellious route, then hang out with the wrong people and you sabotage the rest of your life, or you have that switch like you did to go, you know what, I've got something to prove here, which becomes a huge inner driver.
You find that a lot of, on the whole, a lot of people that have been bullied tend to react well to it. There's by far the biggest percentage do. I have 2 daughters. One's 18, one's 20. When they were younger, my eldest is tough as old boots. You so much as gave her a look, and she'd have you against the wall by the throat, But my youngest is a pussycat, She wouldn't harm a fly. And yet she got quite a lot of bullying when she was younger. Right. And I look at her, and a part of me is full of empathy for the pain she's going through. But then there's part of me looking at her future saying, you know what, this actually isn't because of me, this actually isn't going to do you any harm. This is going to make you strong. This is going to make you tough. This is going to make you the person that you're going to be.
Yes.
So I have that kind of dilemma between the two.
I like that. And I've heard from, some other videos that, is it true you got 5 sisters?
Yes, I do. I have, 5 sisters.
And where are you in the pecking order?
I'm number 2. So my eldest sister is Louise and I'm number 2,
And if you don't mind me asking, what was that like, having worked with so many family businesses where we look at what we call first child syndrome, second child syndrome, third child syndrome, and especially for a one male, in a female environment? Do you think that had an impact on you?
I think that fortunately I never used to have to wear second-hand dresses. But, my mum is a big hero. Both my parents are heroes of mine, but my mum's a big hero of mine to see what she went through. Because when my parents got divorced when I was 7, my dad went bankrupt. And so he'd lost his business. My mum had obviously lost everything because dad went bankrupt, and my mum had to bring us up. And so she worked many jobs to keep us going, and it was tough for her. But she lived her life trying to provide for me and my sisters, and trying to give us what she could with the effort that she was putting in. And I was always, as a kid, you don't notice it, you're not aware of it. But when you become an adult and you look back, you're like, shit, man, you made some sacrifices. You made some big sacrifices.
Yeah, I get it. But I think from what you've just said, there's also richness there, which is, having been through it myself in my 20s and building a $20 million business and then losing everything, my kids grew up watching that. So there's also value in when you see this with your parents, as long as your parents pick themselves up again and go again, that can also be motivational and create motivation for the next generation. Would you agree? Or is that what happened for you?
Yeah, I believe that's right. I believe it does. But again, I don't know how old your kids are, but my kids can't see that right now. I need to give them a few more years so that they can understand that journey. Because I got divorced when my kids were much younger, and they're going to need a few more years to be able to contemplate that and have enough compassion and empathy and maturity to process that and then use that as a force.
I love that. So you've traveled the world, you've lived all over the world, and I've heard your story from some other videos and podcasts, which is incredible. But your business journey, what different industries did you work in before you found your core, your passion to go, I think I found it, and this is the path I want to take now, or not?
I found my passion very early on. All I wanted to be was a ski instructor. That was all I loved to do, to be on the mountain, on the slopes, teaching people to ski. As long as I was on the mountains, on the snow, with a pair of skis on, I could have been a rubbish collector. It wouldn't have mattered. Okay, I just needed to be in that environment. And so after I learned to ski when I was about 12 years old or something, on a school skiing trip, I remember dad paid for me to go, and that was my Christmas, my birthday, for 2 years. I had four events that I got that paid for. And I just fell in love with it. And so when I left school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Mum sent me off on a youth training scheme. I was at college on a day release for 6 months learning construction engineering, which I was just like, what am I doing? And I used to get my £27 a week, which was my YTS fee that I used to get, plus expenses and lunch and vouchers. I remember that. And I had a little 50cc moped that I used to take and run around to Essex to get backwards and forwards from. I didn't like it. I just wanted to ski. And so eventually I got the opportunity to ski. And then in the summer I was working on a dry ski slope as well. So again, skiing, that was fine. But my mum, unfortunately for me, or fortunately, depends which way this story pans out in your mind, my mum ran a recruitment consultancy.
Okay.
And so she's like, right, you're going to get a proper job. I'm like, I've got a proper job. She's like, no, you're going to get a proper job. I've got a proper job. And she's like, no. And so I got 3 job interviews. One was trainee car salesman at a BMW dealership. The other one was a trainee estate agent. The other one was a trainee office equipment salesperson. So I took the BMW job because it came with a 316 BMW. And I'm 18, 19 years old. That's just like, I get a bit of 3 Series BMW. I get that. I'm in. What's the salary? Don't care. Yeah. Well, a petrol card. Done. And so I took that job and I loved it for a month before I got fired for having the wrong attitude. And so then it was like, do I become an estate agent or do I go and sell office equipment? The office equipment.
So did you learn from that in terms of when the feedback was you got a bad attitude?
Nah.
No? It carried on, did it?
I didn't learn anything from that. It was a month later. You know, back then you're not humble enough to say, you know, oh, what did I do wrong? You at that age, you're just like, well, he was a knobhead, wasn't he? You know, so I couldn't work with it anyway. So that was what goes through your mind. And remember, I wanted to be a ski instructor, so that's all I wanted to do. So it's kind of, I was forced a little bit to do that. And then I took the job selling office equipment, and that came with a 1.4L Escort, which was a bit of a downgrade, but it was still a company car. So that was all right. Okay, I'll take that. And I even know the number plate of that car. How mad is that? Anyway, so I learned how to sell at this company. I was taught, like rigorously taught. The training was 6:15 till 8 a.m. every day in the office in London, and we had to drive to London every day. And the training was immense, and I really loved the environment. There's a bunch of guys in there, everyone working hard, people knocking on doors, making cold calls, making sales. There were people in there earning, this is back in the late 80s, earning like £250,000 a year. And I couldn't even count that high. And just to see these people back then that were doing so well, it was infectious. And I loved it. And I did it for until 1993, when even though I was doing well, again, as a kid, I was bad with money, so I was spending more than I was earning. And so I heard about these two guys, Doug Brain and John Celeste, and they had a recruitment consultancy on Tottenham Court Road that did recruitment for salespeople. All right. So I just went and sat with them. I'm like, how do you earn more money than what we're earning? And so John Celeste says to me, you need to work in franking machines. I'll get you an interview at Pitney Bowes. So I was like, okay, I didn't even know what a franking machine was. Doesn't matter, I'll go and do that. So I went to the interview, they wouldn't give me the job. I was like, what? And then Doug said to me, no, you need to work with money. That's how you make more money. You work with money. And I had no idea what that meant. But I went for a job interview at a company up in Ipswich that were financial advisors. And I went for the interview. I was 23, I remember it. And they wouldn't give me the job. And the lady's name was Bryony. And I went home and said to my mum, they wouldn't give me the job. She's like, why? They said, I'm too young. They said, I need to be 25. I'm like, I can do that job. And she's like, well, what are you going to do about it? I was like, I don't know. She's like, well, you going to accept that? You going to accept no? I was like, no. She's like, right. So what's your plan? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I'll go and find the managing director. I'll see if I can find him and talk to him. Yeah. Anyway, so I drove back up there the next day, and I sat and waited for 3 or 4 hours till he came. And he came, his name was Kevin Mudd. And he's like, what do you want? I'm like, your recruiter won't give me a job. I just want a job. I think I can do this. Can I just talk to you about it? Anyway, we started chatting, and he's like, you are too young. I can see you've got experience and you're earning money and whatnot, but you don't have financial services experience and you are too young. And then what came out was the coincidence that changed everything. My grandfather, whilst I was at that interview, my grandfather was in hospital after suffering a stroke. Well, Kevin's father was in exactly the same hospital after suffering a heart attack. Right. So we had my grandfather and his father in the same hospital. And the moment that came out in our conversation, the both of us, he was like, right, you got to be in Hong Kong in 2 weeks' time. Wow. And it was literally, I got the job because of that. And I'm very grateful for the fact that I got that opportunity. Now,
can I ask you a question, Spencer? Sorry to interrupt. Can I ask you, this is now up to around sort of early 20s, mid 20s. So
23. So
if someone's watching this now, early 20s, or some of the family business clients who have around the world, people who are owners, who are thinking about their next generation, and a lot of them worry about the next generation. What tips have you got there before you carry on with your journey, based on what you went through in your early 20s? What advice would you have for people in their 20s today?
I think that young people go through this phase where this is what I really feel happens. I think that from the age of kind of 18 to 24, 25, we think our parents don't know anything. We think we know everything. At that age, you just think you know everything about the world. You just think you're worldly. You've got your bunch of mates, and you think your mates are for life, and you think you've got this cool existence, and parents are old and don't get it, they don't understand it. And when you're with your parents, you're kind of respectful to them for the sake of being respectful. But when you get in the car and you go down the road, well, what do they know? So I think when you are that age, when you know everything, you can't be taught. It's like anybody, when they know too much, or they think they know too much, they're not ready to learn. But what happens is when they get to about 25 years old, I think that young people look back and go, hold on, was this what I planned it? Was this what I was expecting when I was 17, 18? I'm 25 years old now and I'm not a millionaire yet. I'm not a billionaire yet. Or, I'm not dominating this or dominating that. And I think it's at that moment when they go, maybe I need to get some help. Maybe I need some advice. Maybe I need some guidance. Maybe there's someone that can help me. But I think for that late teens, early 20s, I think it's really hard to talk to young people because there's not many of them that are thirsty to learn because they think they know so much already.
Yeah, that's good. So that's good advice. So then going to Hong Kong, was it?
Yeah.
So what happened next?
Boom, boom, boom. I remember in London selling office equipment, I made 100 door knocks every day. My patch was EC3 in the city. 100 door knocks every day, 100 cold calls every day. 100 door knocks every 100 cold calls. That was life. That's how it was. Competition everywhere. It was mercenary. It was terrible. It was all going on. I got to the Far East and I remember the first day I picked up the telephone. I picked up the phone and I made 14 appointments. I booked 14 meetings and cold calls. And no one in the office had ever done that. And they're like, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, people keep saying yes. And it was bizarre because in England, I'd learned that most people were going to say no and that you needed to get 99 no's to find a yes. Yeah. Well, I was expecting exactly the same when I got to the Far East. But yeah, people were like, oh yeah, I'd like to talk about that. Yeah, come and see me. And I was like, oh great, okay. And then the next phone call was like, oh yes, that's really interesting actually. Or they'd give me some token gesture nonsense objection that I'd learned how to handle 3 years earlier. And I moved around the objection and sealed an appointment. And so it, to me, all of a sudden, within a few days of being there, I'm like, holy macaroni, there's an opportunity here because people don't know how to market or prospect overseas.
Do you think that applies to in today's world still, by the way?
I think not so much, but I do. I think if most people that live and work in Dubai that pick up the phone and cold call had to go and pick up the job, do the job in London every day that I did, most of them would have a heart attack. Because you get up and you're door knocking from 8:30 in the morning in the city until midday. You're grabbing a bacon sandwich or whatever it is you're picking up, and then you're going back to the office and you're sitting there picking up the phone and standing on the desk if you're not making appointments and all that crazy stuff that went on when I was younger. But I really do believe that I think that business development has changed. It's completely changed since I was younger. So I don't think the same rules would be applying.
Yeah. So really sales is in your blood then, yes?
I was taught to be a salesperson, and I think I've been taught the most important skill that anybody could ever learn. And I'm deeply offended when people disrespect salespeople. I'm deeply offended when people think that selling's not a profession, and I'm deeply offended by people that get into sales thinking that they're going to get it by having the gift of the gab or some bullshit interpretation of understanding of communication. Selling is a skill that you can use for the rest of your life. It doesn't apply just in business. It applies when you leave university and you go for your first job, because you've got to sell yourself at a job interview, and most people don't know how to do that. When you're running a business, you have to sell your ideas to your teams and to influence them to make good decisions. We're always selling, and if we learn how to do it properly and we care about it and we treat it with respect, then we'll find that it can be a great arsenal to us for our future.
I love it. So fast forwarding for a second then. So how did Spencer Lodge go from there to then building Blue Sky Thinking Group and 3-4 Ventures?
Yeah.
To part those and still have his real sales DNA being unleashed to audiences and clients, and now doing a successful podcast.
I'll go quickly through it. So I worked in Hong Kong, then Thailand, then Malaysia, then Brazil, then West Africa, then Brazil, then Italy, then Holland, and then I came here, and I came here 15 years ago, and I helped to build a business that lots of people hate. It's called Devere. And Devere is a financial services company. He's the biggest one in the world at what he does, and nearly every other financial services company has spawned from Devere over the years. Mm-hmm. And I helped build that company. I was very successful, crazy money, became a bit egotistical, became a bit arrogant, and met my downfall because of that. And in 2012, I was fired because I didn't fit into the model of the business. and I was, given an offer for my equity in the business. I took that offer. I was paid not to work for a year. I took that offer, and then literally I'd gone from being part of something for 16 years to be part of nothing. And it was truly devastating. It was the toughest experience, I think, professionally or period of my life. And I'm not sure I've yet recovered, but it's almost like 8 years.
So you haven't recovered. Why do you feel you haven't recovered?
Like the bullies, it still plays on my mind every day. There's not a day that goes by. I mean, I miss the environment immensely. I'm not a natural entrepreneur. I don't like to be the boss. I like to be one of the team. I've been the boss, and I am the boss in my businesses now, but I don't like it. It's not a place that I find very comfortable, because I get my energy from people. And so if you're the boss, then everyone's looking to get their accolade from you. Everyone's looking to get their leadership from you. Who's the guy that high fives you? Who's the guy that gives you a pat on the back? Who's the guy that says, well done for you? Who's the person that gives you significance? And I think a lot of people don't understand what entrepreneurship is all about. They just think it's cool, but I'm not natural at it, and I don't actually really enjoy it. But
right.
and that's me being really honest. Everyone has this perception. I'm a salesman through and through. Okay, you want me to go sell something, I'll go sell it. That's great. But building these businesses has been interesting for me.
I disagree, Spencer. I mean, you can't. I mean, you are an entrepreneur. Otherwise, how would you build? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this right. Is it Benepal?
Benepal.
Yeah, or Finsbury Associate Wealth Management, then Safe Hands, which is all part of your Blue Sky Thinking Group. If you're not an entrepreneur, how do you end up building 3-4 companies?
By accident, if I'm really honest. So what happened is we set up the wealth management business, because I come from wealth management. So we set up the wealth management business. That was quite easy. And then two guys walked into my office one day, and they said, we've got this piece of software. We need to do a joint venture with a company with an insurance broking license, and we can't monetize our product until we can. I'm like, well, there's 79 insurance broking licenses in the UAE, so go and speak to the other ones then. They said, well, we did. You're the last one. So my ego again took a smash in the face. I'm like, what do you mean I'm the last one? How dare you? I'm like, well, what happened to the other 78? He went, they said no. And I'm like, why? He said, they didn't understand it. So they showed us this software, and it's basically a HR administration management tool. They showed us the software, and Danielle, who works with me, is now my business partner. She looked at it and she's like, we've got to do a deal with these guys. This is phenomenal. And we saw it as a lead gen tool at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And so we bought the business. It's funny how it was publicized, and it's publicized by the people that sold it to us, the two guys that sold it, that they did a $15 million deal. Well, I paid $130,000 for that software. So I don't know where the $15 million came from. So all that stuff in the press is nonsense. But we learned about the software, and then we learned to build the software, and then we learned to get clients using the software. And that's how Benepal started, because Benepal is an anagram of benefits and people. And so that's how that started. And then Safe Hands was set up because Danielle that works with me, we saw that as another lead gen opportunity. But more importantly, I watched somebody die on a football pitch when I was 10 years ago from now. So when I was 40, down at the Springs, there was 20 of us on a football pitch. Young 23-year-old lad fell over. We thought he was having a epileptic fit. He was having a heart attack, but none of us knew what to do. And so the ambulance eventually came, helicopter came, took him away, and he died. And it was devastating. But for me, it's like immediate. I need to get first aid training. And so then we kind of pushed into, do people know about this? And so we've done, I think we've done something like 3,000 workshops over the last 4 or 5 years now across the UAE. So a lot of it came by accident. It wasn't like, let's sit down like I was on a big throne somewhere and I say, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dominate the world and I'm going to build this and sell that. It really didn't happen like that.
But I can tell you right now, I've worked with lots of entrepreneurs and ultra high net worth owners of businesses. And I can tell you right now, Spencer, you are an entrepreneur. You remind me of someone, I can't mention the name because of confidentiality. He's a billionaire. He has about 50 companies in his portfolio today. And all he does, he travels the world looking for the next idea. Once he sees the idea, he invests a bit of money. He then looks for a person who's going to run it. and then leaves it alone. And then the person who runs it only reports to two people. One is his PA, and one is like the group CEO of the group. And those two do everything with each of the businesses that are set up, and he goes and travels the world and does the whole thing all over again. And you remind me of this guy. So I think entrepreneurship for me shows up in different ways. There's no one DNA profile, as I call it, for an entrepreneur. There's different ways of doing this. So would you say you've been really good at seeing the idea and then maybe putting a team together? Because you can't do this on your own.
No. I have a lady called Danielle Suchley, who is the CEO of the Blue Sky Thinking Group, who has worked with me for 15 years. I remember having a conversation with her one day. We built it to a certain point, and I just sat down with her one day. I said, do you want to run all of this? And she said, serious? And I'm like, yeah, do you want to run it all? She was like, yeah, one condition. Yeah. I was like, what's that? She said, I want your car park pass.
It wasn't equity then.
No, well, she's like, I want your car park pass. I'm like, you have a car park space. She's like, yeah, but I don't want you to come to the office. If I'm going to be the boss, you have to let me be the boss. You know, you can come to the board meetings and you can come in once a month and stuff. But they know you own all of this, and they'll always go to you unless you give me the authority. And so I decided to give her the authority and say, right, okay, let's go, you do it. And then that freed me up to go and set up my online training academy. So the Make It Happen University was established because I was able then to do that. And I'd always wanted to do that. And I launched that, and that was great for the first month. And then it put me into a bit of a downward spiral because I built an online product, and I need people, you know, selling stuff online doesn't get me going, you know, but I built this online product, and I was like, holy crap, you know, and as much as people say, yeah, but you're making good money, it's like, yeah, but I need people. And so that's when I kind of put it together with some corporate stuff. And that's around about the same time that I started making content, 2016, 17, I say. And I look back at some of that content I produced back then, and it's horrific.
Well,
deeply embarrassing.
We all have to start somewhere, don't we? Right?
Yeah, I thought I was epic. I was like, what a great video back then. And I look back now, I was like, no.
Well, I've seen how your backdrops have improved over the years as well.
I've got a number of these. People think that's one of those digital ones. It's not.
It does look like a big screen, actually. Yeah, very clever. But would you say then, you know, I think it's smart. You've handed over to someone to head up the entire business. It's freed you up. I think that's a smart move. And then you've gone into other areas. Would you say that give you fulfillment, happiness? You love it? You enjoy it?
I enjoy. I love people that want to learn how to sell. I feel very sad for companies that pay for me to come in and help them when their staff don't want, because of their egoic state, their staff don't want to learn. And I find that really sad for companies. But yeah, I love what I do. I think my favorite thing is right now is I really like my podcast. I really enjoy my podcast. I really enjoy making the content. I really enjoy meeting the people. And I think I get, you know, and then you get ideas, don't you? When Joe Rogan goes and gets $100 million from Spotify, you're like, hold on a minute. And then you start researching, you know, Dave Ramsey and the like, and you're like, hold on. And so I think that's something that it feeds me, because I'm really curious about people. I want to know what makes people tick. I want to know why people do what they do. I want to know how, you know, the challenges they face, but not this peripheral bullshit that you get on some, you know, chat shows and stuff where they're just asking about vanilla stuff. I really want to know. Yeah. And I want to understand, you know, I want to understand about their purpose and their meaning, and I want to really get to the bottom of that with people. So I find that fascinating and really satisfying.
Can I ask you, Spencer? You put your heart out there. I've seen a couple of your Insta posts recently, and I'd love to ask you about this, because I think it can help a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or creating content. And I think you were walking down the street with your phone and you just poured your heart out, and you didn't feel too good that day. You know, you were just honest and said, look, you know, we all have challenges and issues. I'm not feeling too good today. And I just wanted to express that. And that vulnerability was so powerful in that video, because most people think, you know, serial entrepreneur has it all. has the house, has the cars, can travel anywhere, has employees, has a great brand, has the money. Life must be perfect. Can you expand on that? What happened for you that day?
It wasn't what happens. And that's not one day. That's many days.
Is it? Yeah.
That's many days that happens. It's being, as I said, I don't like being an entrepreneur. It's lonely. I don't like being lonely. And so I find it very lonely doing what I do for a living. And it's not something that I enjoy. Or not part of it is not something I enjoy. And so sometimes everyone knows me as this guy that's motivating people and inspiring people and pushing people and getting them to get out of their boxes and stuff. And that I've got my own challenges too. I have emotional challenges. I have relationship issues. I have issues with my kids. I'm a human being too. And I just, and you know what, on the back of that video, so I know the one, because it's the first time I've ever done it. Because I probably have done that video over the last 12, maybe 6 months. I've probably done that video 10 times and gone, people don't need to see that. Wow. And then I went for a walk and I just posted it. And my wife said to me, why did you post? Because my wife doesn't like that. She's like, image, no, stay the hero. And I'm like, but I posted it, and the outpouring from people was incredible. Big people, big people, very big people here. Straight on the phone to me. When are you free for dinner? When are you free for lunch? When are you free for coffee? I want to talk to you. I want to see you. Come around my house. Let's have a coffee. Let's have a beer, whatever it might be. It was really interesting to see that. And that to me means that what I was saying mirrors with a lot of people as well. There's other people that feel these kind of things. Yeah. And I don't believe it's the right thing to do, to hold it in. I don't think it's the right thing to do. And you know what, on the back of that, I'll probably be more honest about my feelings in the future, or more honest through media with my feelings, because I think there's a lot of people out there that are struggling. There's a friend of mine called Ray. She's a men's mental health coach, okay. And she does deals with men. And the reason she did that is that her father was very lonely and he took his own life, and he was her best friend. And when he took his own life, it was like, I need to help men. And the two words that she hates being used more than anything else in the world are the words man up. And for too many years are we told to man up. And I don't care whether you're from Italy or India and you're 60 years old and you've got 30 grandchildren and you're a multimillionaire. The fact is you've still got feelings and emotions, and so, and I think that everyone should be encouraged to talk and stop having this stiff upper lip as us Brits tend to do, and stop being conservative and share your good news and your bad news, because other people feel it and people can identify with it. When they can identify with it, they can feel connected to you. And when they're connected to you, then it's a better situation. I'm interviewing a guy tomorrow called Kevin, I've forgotten his surname. He jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and tried to kill himself a few years ago, but he survived. And as soon as he jumped, he knew he didn't want to die. He smashed his spine into pieces. He luckily survived, and a seal kept him afloat. There was a seal that was under him, keeping him afloat until the Coast Guard came. And it's like, there's a lot of people out there that are in pain in their head, and Kevin says, if you just share your problem, honestly, if you just tell someone, it's so much easier. And you notice this, I don't know if you've ever seen this, an example of this, when a guy and a girl split up, okay, the guy and the girl goes and talks to her mates and tells her mates, and she keeps talking, and she's talking because she needs to talk about it, because life's easier when you're talking about it than it is when you're holding it on your own. Yeah. And the guy, if he talks about it, then there's a way of trying to process some stuff. And I think that's the same for business, because entrepreneurs and business owners, men are defined by their businesses. Men literally are defined by it in different ways to women, and they need to be able to share their challenges and their struggles and be supported with that.
All I can say is, keep doing it, because it was a very powerful video. It definitely got me as well. And I thought, that's one of the reasons I had to reach out to you. So that's the sort of impact it made. And having worked with so many chairmen and owners around the world, it's only when I'm with them one-to-one and we have an authentic conversation that I've seen grown men, chairmen of multi-billion-dollar companies cry, because for various reasons. I remember one chairman, he had a mask on very hard, wouldn't open up, and then 2 hours into the conversation, when I asked him, what do you really want from your family? And he broke down and he said, look, I don't care about the S500 cars. I don't care about that this son or that daughter wants a bigger swimming pool in their mansion. All I want, Reg, you've asked me what I really want. All I want is a thank you from the people around me for what I've done all these years. And this poor man broke down. So I think it's different things for different people, whether it's appreciation, love, recognition, significance. Something's missing, and I think if that, going back to being lonely in entrepreneurship, I think mastermind groups definitely are the way to go. I've always been part of mastermind groups. I don't know whether you have, Spencer.
Why are people not part of them more?
Because they're afraid.
They're afraid, or they're egotistical. Yeah. One of the two. The ego either gets in the way, I don't need that, or they're fearful of being vulnerable.
That's right. Yeah. And they don't want to but it's only when they do it and then they realize, hang on, wow, there's other people going through the same stuff. Thank God. Then it suddenly becomes okay. And yeah, but moving on to something else. What the hell is GOAT? GOAT. What is that? What is
that? Stands for greatest of all time.
Greatest of all time is an acronym. Okay, I was trying to figure that one out.
You know what? Here in the Middle East, people say this a lot. They're like, it's got something to do with Eid? And I'm like, no.
So there is a methodology there, yeah? Now, I know I've taken up a lot of your time, but can I ask you, if we were meeting up on December the 31st, 2030,
yeah,
10 and a bit years from now, celebrating, what would we be celebrating? Where do you want to be?
Well, I'd be 60 by then.
I'll be right behind you, don't worry. Yeah.
Okay, so I'd be 60 then, December 31st. What would I have done? Well, I think the businesses will all be sold a long time before that. So those businesses will go. I think that I have I harbor a secret ambition to have my own TV show. Mm-hmm. I'm in discussions at the moment to do that with a production company. I don't know if you've seen on Netflix, there's a TV series called The Kindness Diaries.
I haven't actually, no, I haven't seen that. I'll check that out.
An English guy called Leon Logothetis. It was a huge hit on Netflix called The Kindness Diaries. Anyway, he and I are in talks at the moment about creating something. I love adventure. And so I would have probably climbed some more mountains. I would have got to the top of Everest by then for sure. And I would hope to have my daughters, in terms of their business, I would hope to be there and helping and supporting them with either their businesses or they working within mine. And I for sure would have hoped that my kids would have been up some of those mountains and on some of those adventures with me, rather than looking at me thinking I'm mad as a box of frogs.
Love it. Love it. Well, this becomes a digital asset, so we'll make sure it's replayed on December 31st, 2030, and we'll do another episode to see how the journey went over 10 years.
Right, so December 31st, you lot, look, the hair's real. It's not grey. I'm not old. So if you're watching me then...
Yeah. Who knows what type of surgery and Botox will be available for men by then.
I literally will be an avatar.
Exactly. Here is Spencer and Reg 2.0. Right. Please have a conversation with each other. I always ask people, Spencer, there's things that, based on our life journey, there's things that we know and there's things that we don't know, okay? And as some people say, psychologists, there's also things that we don't know, because it doesn't live in our domain at all to know or don't know. So if we leave the viewers with a couple of tips, what are the things based on your journey in life you would say, I know? Based on my principle, my blueprint, what's in here, my operating system, words of wisdom, this is something that I can say I know. What would that be?
Okay, two things that I'm going to give you. Okay, and these two things matter to me a lot. One of them is in business, you aren't the best at what you do. All right. So always be learning. Okay, always be learning, and find, and literally make it your obsession to find really good people. And there are really good people. Don't be a control freak. There are really good people out there. So make it your obsession to find really good people, and also have the humility, okay, to understand if you don't find the right people at first, you got it wrong. Okay, they didn't, you got it wrong. Okay, but also accept you're allowed to get it wrong. And the second thing, I think, comes back down to understanding some really important words that we maybe misuse. A lot of people talk about purpose, and I don't think people should talk about purpose. I think people should talk about meaning. And
what's the difference?
I think that we use purpose, but we mean meaning. And I think what we do is we go out there looking for purpose. And what we do by looking for purpose and looking for meaning is we search for it from outside of ourselves. We go somewhere to find it where it's actually here. The meaning is here. The meaning isn't out there. And all you're doing as you go and search for it is you're going to look somewhere else further away than where it actually is. So it's like you're walking away from the solution. So your meaning is inside, and you need to do some work to find your meaning inside. A great book to read, like one of the best books to read in the world about this kind of stuff, is by Viktor Frankl. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. And he was in the concentration camps in Auschwitz and stuff in the war, and he lived through it, and he could tell the difference between men that were going to live and weren't going to live, because the ones who'd given up or they'd lost meaning. And there were guys that found meaning in birdsong, and they found meaning in the trees, because they were starving, hungry, and there was a horrible situation. It was their spirit, you know. And I think that if you're in business and you're building businesses and you're focused on making money, and all you care about is money, I think that's just like, it's a life that's so shallow, it's untrue. You don't need to focus on that. Try and focus on making a difference, but try and focus on making a difference in the right way. Yeah. And I think that I've tried really hard, you know, as a financial advisor all those years, I was the 5th emergency service: police, ambulance, fire trucks, automobile association, then me, because I was the person that was going to stop you messing up your family's financial future. Okay, and I took that really seriously. And so because I took it so seriously, I had such meaning in what I did. There was such meaning behind it. And I didn't need to go look anywhere, because it was my belief system. So I think that if you want to be successful in business, okay, be obsessive about finding great people, but understand yourself as a human being first, and stop searching for stuff that maybe you're never going to find outwards. Start taking some time for inner reflection, remove your egoic self, and work towards your true north. And a lot of people that are my age know that what they did for a living for a long period of time wasn't actually their true north.
Yes.
It was what they got into when they were young, and they did because it provided a lifestyle, a finance, something it provided. Then stop them then going and searching for what their actual true north is. And if you don't search for your true north, you're doing a disservice to yourself, your family, and society, because your true north is so important to all of us. Because what you're deeply, deeply in tune with, and what you're deeply focused on, and what matters to you, okay, you'll become brilliant at. And we need brilliant people being brilliant at those types of things.
Wow. I think that 5 minutes there was a pretty good keynote. Okay. So we'll make sure in the description area, Spencer, we'll tell everyone to go to the last 5 minutes, shall we?
Skip the rest.
Yeah, skip the rest. Brilliant advice. I really appreciate your time. I really do. Keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome. And I know you've been working really hard with your podcast. And I think all these things over time eventually pay off. And I'm looking forward to your new TV production. I hope that kicks off, and your new show. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for today, Spencer. And I look forward to doing this again soon.
No problem. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I thank you for your time.